Hi! Did you know that it's really easy to calculate the carbon footprint of your event? With our CO₂ event calculator, you can combine data based on statistics with your custom data for maximum accuracy and flexibility. Anyone can measure, understand, and offset their event emissions. I'm Emily from the German climate nonprofit organization Atmosfair. And in this video, I'll walk you through the process of reporting your event's carbon footprint. Let's get started. Picture this. Recently, Atmosfair hosted a 2-day convention in Berlin, gathering 600 professionals from Europe's carbon market and academia. We encouraged eco-conscious travel and took steps to ensure a low-carbon event. Now we're ready to assess the event's carbon footprint and offset unavoidable emissions. First, let's use our CO₂ event calculator to measure emissions and inspire you to plan your own climate-conscious events. You can either get started without a login right away, or you can create your own account to manage multiple events and save all your calculations for future reference. Now it's time to create your event's profile. To do so, let's fill in some essential information. Our event lasted 2 days. I can either specify the dates or simply indicate the event lasted for 2 days. For the catchment area, since the participants are all from Europe, we will select the catchment area as international. As you can see, our system auto-generates some data from your base data entries, based on statistics, and pre-fills some fields, so you're set up right from the start. You don't need to worry about missing data, which we know can be a struggle when organizing an event. However, if you do have specifics, go ahead and refine it here for even more accurate calculations. In our case, we managed to gather detailed data, so we will tweak these numbers to match real travel patterns, providing the best carbon assessment possible. Let's dive into how we can calculate this section based on our data. Of our attendees, 30% were from Berlin. We encouraged local participants to choose sustainable transport, and it paid off. 55% used public transit, 40% walked or cycled, and just 5% took a car. Next, let's look at 20% from the Berlin-Brandenburg area. While we promoted train travel, 40% still chose to drive. However, 60% took the train, with 55% on regional lines and 5% on long-distance trains. Unfortunately, we lack specific data on the train class they selected, which we could otherwise input here. Now looking at the 30% of attendees from across Germany. Our advice was clear. Take the train over cars or flights, and if flying, choose economy. Why? Economy seats have a higher passenger capacity, resulting in lower emissions per person. In the end, 10% of national participants opted to fly. 16 chose economy class, helping to keep emissions lower, while 2 flew business class. Another 10% drove to the event, and the majority, 80%, took eco-friendly long-distance trains. For the remaining 20% of participants who travelled internationally from across Europe, things get interesting. While we don't have the exact origins for 90 of these travellers, we know they came from various European cities, with 84 choosing to fly and 6 opting for trains. What we do know, 30 sustainability consultants from our Barcelona office flew to Berlin in economy class. Since Barcelona is about 1,500 kilometers from Berlin, we customized the CO₂ event calculator with a custom catchment area to precisely account for this data. Since we don't have intercontinental participants, we can delete this section. With the arrival-departure section now fully tailored, let's move on to customizing the accommodation section for an accurate carbon emissions assessment. As with other sections, you'll find pre-filled estimations based on your inputs. Initially, it's assumed that local attendees wouldn't need hotel bookings, and the pre-filled data suggests that the other 70% of attendees stayed one night in hotels. The hotel class is initially unspecified. However, we have the details. For 65% of total participants, we booked accommodation in an eco-friendly 3-star hotel. The remaining 5% arranged their own accommodation, for which we lack class details, but we can easily factor that in. Now, let's move to the catering section, where we'll dive into the details of the event's catering choices. So let's dig in. In the food and drink section, you'll see pre-filled data assuming 3 meals for 600 attendees with various dietary preferences. But our event was a bit different. We kept it simple and eco-friendly by serving only lunch and dinner, both fully vegetarian. For drinks, we provided water, coffee, and juice. While we don't have exact volumes, the calculator helps us estimate. We assume 1 bottle of water per person per day, keep the default coffee consumption, and estimate 1.5 glasses of juice per person per day. If needed, you can always reset entries to default with a click. Next up, the venue section. For this section, we got some useful insights from the venue owner, allowing us to further customize this part of the calculation. But if specific venue data isn't available, you can always use the pre-filled data as a reference. We selected a spacious venue covering 2,400 square meters. What makes it even more appealing is that it's brand new, equipped with district heating and powered by solar energy from renewable sources. Unfortunately, we couldn't access detailed data on electricity, heat, water usage, or waste production at the venue, but we can rely on the statistics provided to cover this data gap. Next year, we will try to keep track on actual consumption for even more accuracy. Now, let's move on to the last step: finalizing logistics. We transported essential event equipment from our Hamburg office to the Berlin venue, covering 290 kilometers with a net weight of around 6 tons. After the event, the equipment was returned to our Berlin office, a shorter trip of around 15 kilometers. To input this into the calculator, we'll add a transport section for the Hamburg to Berlin trip. Select the appropriate truck type, enter the 290 kilometer distance, and untoggle the round trip option since it's one way. For the return, we'll add another transport section, adjust the distance to 15 kilometers, and keep it as a one-way trip as well. Additionally, we'll account for the catering delivery, which was transported via truck with an estimated load of 4,800 kg round trip from the catering facility to the venue. Now, with all our customizations and data entries complete, we're ready to generate our final event emissions report and analyze the results. Let's take a closer look. In this report, you'll find a detailed breakdown of the event's emissions. The total emissions for the event stand at around 100 tons of CO₂. And we've also laid out the emissions for each individual section. Now that you have a clear picture of your event's footprint, it's time to take action. Head back to the CO₂ Event Calculator tab and click on Offset Now to offset your emissions with Atmosphere. The offset amount is already conveniently pre-filled for you. If you'd like to offset your emissions right away, simply click Continue and add this to your cart. If you're not already an Atmosfair customer, please take a moment to register a new account or continue as a guest. Please note that you'll require a different account from your CO₂ Event Calculator account. After receipt of your payment, you will automatically receive a certificate and a donation receipt by mail. Thanks for watching, and until next time.